Ashlee's mother says she never would have expected that less than a week later, her daughter would be dead. On April 8th, she says Ashlee called saying she and her fiance got into an argument and were moved to separate rooms. The next day, she received another call, this time from her fiance. Hours later, the luxury hotel the couple was staying at called saying Ashlee passed away.
He could be suspicious, he could be a criminal, and he could have been the one that killed her. Or also, he could be the farmer and protecting himself, because nobody cares that you were the fiance, because they want justice for their daughter, and you going to prison if they can put you in as a suspect in this. Let me show you something that should outrage every American. These pills can end a pregnancy, and this isn't Plan B. This is a chemical abortion pill. And today, they can be ordered online and delivered straight to your mailbox. No doctor's office, no clinic, just a few clicks, and abortion shows up at your front door. That means it's not across the town anymore. It's just a few feet away in your home or your neighborhoods. And while the abortion industry is making it easier than ever to end a life, Save the Storks is working to make it easier for women to choose life. Because sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do is very simple. Let life happen. They send medical mobile clinics into communities so women can see their baby, get real support, and know they're not alone. But they need people like you to step up. Here's the truth. Women in your community, even at your church, are ordering these pills online. They need your help. So the question is, how will you respond? For just $10 a month, this is super simple and easy. You can help Save the Storks reach women before the pill ever arrives in the mailbox. Hope should arrive before abortion pill does. Go to SaveTheStorks.org/Tatum right now and become a monthly supporter like my family. Because when abortion can be delivered overnight, it's time that we deliver hope even faster. Here's the news report. You guys have seen it everywhere, in part, I'm pretty sure, but here's a little bit of news report update on her mysterious, quote-unquote, suicide. Roll it.
And now the details on the investigation into the death of Ashlee Robinson. Her family is demanding answers after the influencer from South Jersey was found dead during a trip to Africa where she had just been engaged. Action News reporter Cheyenne Corinne joining us live in the Satellite Center with more on this heartbreaking story. Cheyenne.
Alicia, well, Ashlee Robinson, she actually was raised locally in South Jersey, and now her death in Zanzibar is making headlines across the world. Well, today we spoke to her family in Delaware, who say they aren't getting answers from her fiance or officials in Tanzania about what happened to her.
Uncertainty, mystery, anger, sadness. It's like a part of me has been taken away.
On April 5th, influencer Ashlee Robinson, who goes by Ashlee Jenae on social media, was celebrating her 31st birthday in Zanzibar, Tanzania. She was on the vacation with her boyfriend of 1 year, who popped the question just 2 days before.
We believe that they were in love. We believe that their relationship was genuine.
Ashlee's mother says she never would have expected that less than a week later, her daughter would be dead. On April 8th, she says Ashlee called saying she and her fiance got into an argument and were moved to separate rooms. The next day, she received another call, this time from her fiance.
He told me that Ashlee did something to herself and that she was being taken to the hospital. I said, what happened when? And he told me it had been 11 hours prior.
Hours later, the luxury hotel the couple was staying at called saying Ashlee passed away. According to the hospital's medical report, Ashlee had an unidentified mark around her neck. They wrote, quote, according to the husband, he found she hanged herself on the door with several question marks.
Sometime Jill went back to the room with security, and that's how they found her.
Ashlee was also taken to a second hospital who listed her cause of death as cerebral hypoxia by strangulation and suffocation.
She's never done anything that would ever lead me to believe that she would do something to harm herself.
She was not just going to be discarded and forgotten about.
And the family, as you just heard, they are just desperate for information. They tell us that they are requesting surveillance footage from the resort. They also say that they have contacted police, the consulate, and embassy and have not heard back. No Action News, we also tried to contact Ashlee's fiance, and we also did not get a response. The family says their next steps are going to Zanzibar themselves to try to get answers.
Now, let me give my interpretation of this. There's some more video footage of the family's interview with TMZ. But here's my perspective, right? As an investigator, I'm looking at this impartially. I don't know either party. I don't know what the relationship is like. I don't know the parents. I don't know what her relationship was like with her parents. What I can say is this could have been a suspicious thing that had happened, but it appears that if any of what the boyfriend or the fiance is saying is true, it could be an incident where this young lady was going through something and she ended up taking her life without him being mysteriously involved. If he, in fact, were separated from her, like the family said, because they got into an argument, which is crazy when you just get engaged and you're on vacation and you're arguing so bad that you had to get separated. You know, that it's people rushing into this marriage thing and it just live in this fantasy world, and they really hate each other, you know, trying to save face or something. I don't know how that, I know how that can be, right? I was born during the day, but I wasn't born yesterday. And if he cannot contact her, he has the security, and this is, just say that this is evidence, like meaning that it's verified, that they go and not only did he discover her, but also the security along with him discovered her in the position she was in, meaning that he had no contact with her being separated and they discovered her at the same time, and not him discovering her and then going back to them. But there also could be a situation where he did, in fact, have something to do with it. So I just want you guys to keep an open mind because we don't know everything about the case yet, but it does seem very suspicious. But it's not suspicious in some fashion if the fiance doesn't communicate with the family, because if he was only dating their daughter for a year, he's not really close to them, it would not make sense for him to have that much, you know, intimate contact with them. Also, I'll say this as well. I want to find out through this investigation that 11-hour gap. Mom says that he claimed that they weren't contact till 11 hours later. Now, this is how it could have happened based on the totality of what I've heard, is that she did something to herself the night before. He didn't become concerned until several hours later. They didn't get authorities involved until even more time. And then once she went to the hospital, he then told them, which could have been 11 hours after she did that to herself, not 11 hours after he discovered her. That's a clarifying point. If it's 11 hours after he discovered her, that's suspicious. If it's 11 hours after the incident occurred, which he had no idea about because it may have happened overnight, which is like 8 hours different, 8-hour difference. Here's another part of the interview on TMZ. Roll it.
We're not too sure what happened. That's what we're trying to find out. I got 2 emails today from the embassy in Zanzibar, and it said the investigation is still ongoing. We have not determined the cause of death yet at all. An investigation, so nothing official has been released. That's what we're trying to find out. We just want answers.
What was it that the hotel initially told you guys?
That the person, that Joe McCann, who she was traveling with, that he had found her and that they had taken her to the hospital.
We just think it's very odd that our daughter is traveling with Joe and we don't hear anything from Joe. To me, that's very odd. And initial call that she got from Joe was 11 hours after something had transpired in the room. And that's very odd. 11 hours later,
11 hours.
Something had transpired, and Joe just relayed to Yolanda that Ashlee was okay and she was stable and she was okay and don't worry about it.
But that she was at the hospital.
Yes. 11 hours later.
Yeah, y'all get what I'm saying with the family? This is what I'm saying. When your daughter's been killed or died, it's traumatizing. So I know the family is incredibly concerned. I would be. But when they say 11 hours after something had transpired, she could have taken her own life the night before. And then he found out, or he hadn't heard from her the next day. And then they went to the room and they found her in that position. Now, think about this for a minute. And I'm just trying to give us something to ponder our mind about and not jump off the cliff either way. If you're on a vacation and something happens, you're probably not so quick to want to let daddy and them know what happened, right? You don't want the daddy and the family to know y'all were arguing, and you don't want them to know that she potentially killed herself. And if she's going to be okay, which he probably didn't know whether or not she was going to be okay, if she was going to be okay, then you definitely don't want to say nothing yet. You rather report back to them, something happened, but she's fine. You don't want to jump the gun. They're in another country. Probably the time zone is different, and you're letting them know that their daughter's dead. So I can see on the side, if he didn't do it and he wasn't really involved in it, is why that may have transpired the way it did.
So have you spoken to him since, and what has he been saying?
There has been no communication here. Was there any footage? Did you look at the footage? Did you see the footage? These are things that's very important to us. These are things that can clear everything up. It gives us the timeline. It lets us know what happened. We have not seen or heard or even anything about any kind of footage surveillance. No. These are things that we need to know.
Did you guys ever think that Ashlee had any mental health issues?
I would think that's farther from the truth. If you go to her page, like you can see, she's a beacon of light. She likes being in the limelight. It's like being in the camera. She was an influencer. She loved her family.
She loved her family.
She loved her family.
Yeah, so I can see why the parents may be concerned because, maybe she didn't show any signs. And obviously this guy's been knowing her for a year. So he's the number one suspect in this situation. But also not having communication with him is not necessarily mean that he's guilty, because when you are being investigated for the murder of another person, it will be in your best interest to not talk to people about nothing. He probably has a lawyer that's telling him, do not say anything, because the family isn't your friend. Even though this is a touchy situation, and I get it, but the family is not your friend. They want justice for their daughter. They don't care nothing about you. You get on the phone and you start saying certain stuff, they're gonna start testifying against you, and they're gonna paint you as the bad guy because they have no other justification for their daughter dying like that. So he could be suspicious, he could be a criminal, and he could have been the one that killed her. Or also he could be the former and protecting himself, because nobody cares that you were the fiance, because they want justice for their daughter, and you going to prison if they can put you in as a suspect in this. So I'm waiting to see. My gut tells me that there's a possibility the man probably didn't have nothing to do with it, and that his daughter and her had been in a toxic relationship for a long time that she never told her parents, and that there's a possibility that she was going through a lot as an influencer, arguing with him, fights. She could be pregnant. We don't know any of those things, and that sometimes can force somebody to feel like they're in a bad place. And when you're isolated in a bad place and you've had this facade of who you are and it all comes crumbling down, people sometimes can get in a very dark place. Not saying that's what happened, but that's what my gut is saying. But I'm open to being wrong about that. There's a racial component to it, but we'll get to that at another time. When there's a white man and a black girl and there's a murder or something that happened, everybody's going to jump on the race bandwagon and they're going to talk about the white man being guilty, even though he may not be, because none of us know either one of these people, right?